Hi and welcome to All Things Marvelous. I'm John Paul and today we're going to be making this hair simulation that grows from a rock and has this really nice flowing in the wind effect. I saw another great channel do this in Houdini and I spent ages trying to figure out how to do it in Blender, but there wasn't any way to make the hair grow using the inbuilt hair particle system. But I eventually came up with a bit of a workaround and I thought you might like to see how I did it. So with all that said, let's get into it. So the first thing we're going to do is delete the default cube and bring in a rock from Quixel Megascans. I'll stick a link in the video so you can see how to do this. I'm not going to go through it again in this tutorial, but it's quite simple. You just need a previous version of Blender and the Bridge app from Quixel to be able to do it. Okay, now that we've got the rock, I'm just going to position it so it looks nice and I want it in the center of the project. Then I'm going to add an empty and make sure that it's intersecting with the rock. Then head over to the modifier section and add a vertex weight proximity modifier to the rock. Then in the data tab of the object, add a vertex group, then go into edit mode and assign all of the points. Then in the vertex weight proximity modifier, select the group you just made and select the target object as the empty. You need to change the proximity mode to geometry as well. Then head over to weight paint mode to check if everything is working. You should see something like this. Then you need to change the low value to just under the meter, so 0.9 or something similar. Your measurements may vary depending on the size of the object and the empty. Come out of weight paint mode and duplicate the object and call this rock outer. And make sure you remove the weight proximity modifier. You can just hide it from your view for the time being. Then make another duplication and call this rock small. Again, taking off the weight proximity modifier. Now, make sure that the origin is set to geometry, so right click origin to geometry and scale it down so that it's about half the size of the object. Now, head over to the main rock that you've copied this from that has the weight proximity modifier on and add a shrink wrap modifier. Set the target to the new small rock and then use the vertex group that you created for the vertex weight proximity modifier and you should see something like this, which in essence is using the empty to control whether the rock is shrink wrapped to the small rock. Here I just make some slight adjustments to the big rock, always making sure that the origin is set to the geometry. Basically what you want is you want the main rock to be slightly smaller than the rock outer and that the outer covers all the way around it. Now back to the main rock and you're going to add a hair particle system, but make sure that you've applied the scale of the object. And if not, press Ctrl A and apply the scale. Now you can add the hair particle system and bring the hair down to the length that you need. I do mine about 0.12. Next, turn on advanced and turn on rotation. Then turn on children to interpolated and set the display amount to 50 and the render amount to 50 as well, just so we can see what's going on. Next, I add a wind force and bring this really low down to about 0.1. Then add a turbulence force and make the strength about 0.2. Now, head over to the turbulence transform controls and set a keyframe on frame 1 set to 0 on all the rotations. Then go to frame 250 and set a keyframe about 90 degrees on either the X, Y or Z. And as you'll see, the hair starts to move in this wavy-like fashion. If like mine, the mesh you're using with the hair is on a really detailed model, then this entire animation will take ages to play. So what you can do is what I'm doing here, which is to add a decimate and put the decimate to about 0.2 and then apply it. Always double check that the vertex weight paint is still working correctly though. Then when you turn everything back on, you should be able to play the animation and see what it looks like in real time in the viewfinder window. Here I just adjust the wind so you don't get any bald patches and you can see it all pointing towards you or pointing towards the camera. And this is why we use the shrink wrap. This is a trick or a workaround because Blender's particle system won't allow you to animate it growing out of the object. You can set the weight paint for the density, but it won't update as the animation goes along. So what we're doing here is we're faking it. We're making it look like it's growing out of the rock when really it's just an expanding shrink wrap with the hair attached. From here, I grabbed the light and moved it in and below the rock. And then I add a gobo with a leaf pattern, so it gives a bit of atmosphere to the scene. As you can see, I'm just positioning it above the rock and pointing it down towards it, which should give us a really nice effect. And here I'm just adjusting some of the hair numbers. So I bumped up the number to 10,000 and add a really slight bit of noise to the turbulence, which should give you something like this. I think I settled on 0.02 for the amount. Next, we need to animate the empty moving across and encapsulating the whole of the rock. I've tried to start from the top left going down, but it just didn't look right, so I ended up going from the right hand side across to the left. Again, I set 2 keyframes, one on 0 and then another when it's totally encompassing the whole rock at 250 frames. Then I moved this keyframe slightly in to about 210 frames so that you have about 40 frames at the end with the hair flowing by itself. Next I move to setting up the cameras and the background. I get the cameras positioned where I'd like them and make the animation move slowly. Then I drop in something that I've created previously, which I call the infinite torus, which gives an all-round background and gradient. I'll include this in the blend file so you can see how it's used here. I'm just changing the color slightly and moving the mapping of the gradient so it goes from top to bottom rather than left to right. From here, all I need to do is add 2 cameras so we get 2 different views. Close up after the main one that pans backwards, and then another one slowly panning towards it from the right hand side. And that's about it. And then from here, I just let the whole thing render. Oh, one last note. The color of the hair always takes the color of the texture of the object that you added when you added the particles. All I did there is add a new material to the rock, made it slightly off-white, and then in the particle render section I selected that new material, and that's it. Thanks for sticking around till the end. I hope you found something useful and I'd love to see what you make, so please send me some links. If you could like and subscribe, that would be brilliant, and I'll catch you on the next video.